is a huge honor for me today to be podcast interviewing Chris Haynes, who has been a dental consultant for 30 years. Chris's passion for efficient systems is grounded in personal understanding and professional expertise. Chris is a dental insurance electronic payment specialist who engages the provider, clearinghouse, and payer in simplifying the dental electronic payment setup and to complete the enrollment process with all partners to achieve better cash flow. She has implemented the newest methods for proper revenue cycle management, time tools, tracking, and organized system to help dental offices implement a more streamlined electronic process in their front office systems, and is passionate in teaching dental offices how to move the practice into leaving a paper-based payment system to becoming an electronic-based system for the new era in dental technology. She's a member of the SC Dental Resource Partners, and her website is dentalwebsmart.com, dentalwebsmart.com. Chris, thank you so much for joining me today, because every dentist wants to get paid from the insurance companies.
Yes,
and
I do.
I remember back in the day in 87, I mean, you could send claims by paper through the U.S. mail, and a lot of times we weren't getting paid for 30, 60, or 90 days on claims. And
Yes.
now, what percent of the dental insurance claims today are going electronic versus snail mail?
I would say probably at least 98% of them are sent electronically, in my experience.
98%?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they've been electronic claims has been around for quite a few years now. As far as the electronic payment, I would say that's probably only been around for maybe about five years.
And what's the difference between electronic claims and electronic payment?
Electronic claims basically are your claim. Instead of sending them in the mail, which you just referred to, like we used to in the past, we send them electronically. And when you send them electronically, they go to your clearinghouse. And they have a process that's called scrubbing the claims. And from there, if anything is incorrect, then they send it back to the office electronically to refile it, to adjust it and refile it. And then they go off to if everything's okay, they go to the insurance company.
Now, how long have you've been a dental consultant for 30 years, but how long have you been mostly only focusing on electronic claims and payment and all this?
About 6.5 years.
And so why are dental offices calling you? What's the typical client? How much they pay? Because what I want you to do is you're talking to thousands of dentists, and I want you to paint the problem where someone might be driving to work today and saying, "Oh my God, I thought that's just the way it was." What problems are dentists having that they call you, and how does it work that you fix that? What are you doing for people?
Well, basically, when they call me, it's usually because they're having a problem with their cash flow. Which is a big thing when it comes to insurance. And if they don't have someone within the office that actually handles the insurance for them to stay on top of it, that can get backed up too, which affects your cash flow. So when they contact me, they really contact me because they really don't know enough about it. So they contact me and obviously ask me a lot of questions on how to implement that and what they have to do to achieve that. I have 2 doctors that I actually do their insurance for them. I have clients that I work remotely for them, handling their insurance. I've been doing that 11 years for him. So that system is pretty efficient that he has. So I would say 95% of his payments are electronic payments. So when you look at your end of day report, it's going to be mostly electronic payments, which basically means that's already in your bank account.
So I'm afraid when you tell people, when you say that people are calling you because their cash flow, explain what you mean by cash flow. What would be normal cash flow? What would be abnormal cash flow?
Well, their abnormal cash flow when they have a lot of outstanding claims and they have it over the 90-day range, that's a very abnormal. I'm talking large amounts of money in their 90-day range. That's a poor cash flow.
What should the over 30, over 60, over 90 day be? What do you like to see?
For 90, 0.
Right.
Typically what I try to do is to achieve it where it's only in your current day range. So it depends on how large the practice is.
If you did $100,000 a month, if your dental office produced $100,000 a month, what should your over 90, over 60, over 30 be?
I would say 50.
50,000
Mm-hmm.
for what? Over 30 or over 60?
Over 60.
So if you're over 90, you said should be 0.
Yes.
Over 60 should be 50%.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so my homies are driving to work right now. They're listening to you on their car stereo. How would the dentist get to work and find out? How would he get on Dentrix, EagleSoft, SoftDent, whatever? What report should he run specifically to figure this out?
It's called an outstanding aging report. I think typically like an EagleSoft, that program itself is an outstanding insurance aging report.
So you're talking about outstanding just insurance, outstanding insurance aging report.
Correct, sir. Yes.
So if you're driving to work right now, when you get to work, just go up to your front desk. I mean, should the dentist be able to know how to run this report himself or herself?
I would say that generally that is a very good thing for the dentist to know how to do that. Yes. He should always have a pulse of what's going on as far as his outstanding insurance. And especially if he has someone handling his insurance for him, that really gives him a feel of how well they're handling that position.
And if they're trying to run this report or they're seeing something and they're confused, how do they contact you?
They can call me. They can reach out to me through my website. They can send me an email through my website.
Okay, go be specific. What number to call? What email?
They can call me at the number 864-414-1126, and that's my personal phone number. And the website, they can reach me through my website, which is dentalwebsmart.com. Or they can send me an email, a personal email to dentalwebsmart@gmail.com.
And for the low-hanging fruit, what are your standard questions? What are the standard questions that dentists are having that have kept you in business doing this full-time for a decade?
Their standard questions, I would say, basically they're very concerned about their cash flow, because when they reach out to me, it's at a point where they've actually probably looked at that report and they realize how much money is on the books. So when they call me, they ask me questions as far as how can we turn this around, and how quickly, when you set up for electronic payment like that, does that turn around versus doing it in the past, sending it in the mail. I would say most offices these days do not. Anybody I've ever run into, everything is electronic. They send their claims electronically.
So if so basically, your dentists are calling you because they're already using electronic claims, but they've got money in their over 90.
Correct.
And how do you get paid? Do you get a percent of what you collect, or do you bill by the hour? Or how does that work?
Like I had stated before, I have clients that I actually do their insurance for them. I handle their insurance for them remotely. So that's different. I get paid hourly for that. Now, if I go into an office and set them up electronically to start receiving electronic payment, that's a one set fee for setting them up electronically and training their staff how to implement that payment once it starts hitting the bank. And And there's a number when you have your deposit from your insurance company electronically put into your bank account. It's got a trace number attached to it. So when you get your EOB, your electronic remittance, it's going to have that trace number on there. So that's where you connect the dots so you know that that payment goes to that EOB. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, and do you go to the office to train them, or do you also train them remotely?
I can train them remotely, but I can also go to the office to train them.
What do you think works better?
It depends on the person, I think, that you're training. Some people feel better to physically have you there at the office for a couple of days. I would say probably being physically at the office training them.
And how many states have you trained dentists in?
Generally, most of them are in the general area from where I live. I live in South Carolina, so I have clients in close nearby. I don't have any, like, say, in California or any of those states out that way. So it's mostly on the eastern seaboard.
Will after the Super Bowl, will you see people in Denver?
Why not?
Are you still recovering from that loss?
Yeah, really. I'm not quite sure what happened there. I don't know if it was nerves or what it was, but I don't watch football too much, but I did watch some of it.
I'm glad I'm not a gambling man, because I would have bet my car that Carolina would have just won by 2 touchdowns.
I think so many people around here really felt that too, and I'm not really sure what happened, but.
Yeah.
We all learn things from experience. Maybe next year.
Right, there you go.
Yeah.
So when you go into an office and they're already using electronic claims, but they've got money piling up and they're over 90, why do you think that usually happens? What do you think's going on?
Well, typically, if it's because I really feel that if they do not have someone handling their insurance, say you have an office person that's pretty much handling a lot of things, I find that if you have one specific person, the insurance stuff is so complicated today. I think having one person handle the insurance stuff and staying on top of it really is a big benefit. Now, why it's outstanding is because the offices don't have time, especially if it's only one girl at the front desk, or I should say woman, office manager.
You can say girl. This is Dentistry Uncensored. You can call him girl, girlfriend, woman, whatever you want to call her.
Yeah, but
my office manager is actually a man.
Okay, well, that's great. Yeah, I've seen that many times, really.
Well, with the loss of 50 million manufacturing jobs since 1980, you're seeing men pouring in to healthcare. Healthcare is 17% of the economy, and every hospital administrator I talked to just said that's as old as me, says they've never seen anything like this. In fact, I was talking to one guy the other day, and he said that for about a 3-month period, more than half of his applications for openings were men, more than half.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, they're great jobs, and you don't have to stand out there in the Arizona sun when it's 117 working on your melanoma, busting concrete.
Jeez,
I mean, who wouldn't want to work inside an air-conditioned hospital?
That's right. Wow. Well, that's great, though. I think that's great that that men have that opportunity to take those jobs and stuff. So
your sense is usually your niche product is that it's a smaller office, and one person up front is trying to do it all, and the one thing you wouldn't want them to get behind on is collecting the money, because you got to pay your bills on time, you got to pay your rent, mortgage, staff, payroll. You can't pay your staff 90 days late.
Right.
So would you say your core competency is in the smaller office?
It really doesn't matter, really, what size the office is, because I have clients where there's more than one doctor in the office, and they can be sometimes large companies. And it really does not matter what software program they use either, because once I set them up electronically, it really doesn't matter what the software program is. Because basically what you're actually doing, instead of receiving that check in the mail from the insurance company, you're having it sent to your bank deposit, and it should be a deposit-only bank account. And the reason why I say deposit-only is it just makes it more efficient for the doctor to take a look at that account and see that it's just all electronic payments. It's a lot more efficient way of keeping track of your insurance payments that come into your office. And the front desk doesn't have privileges to that account. Like, what I mean by that is by transferring money, they don't have any privileges to it at all. And if the doctor sets it up correctly, the deposit-only account, he can also, and I always advise doctors to do this, he can also have it set up so he can automatically have money transferred from that account when it gets to a certain amount into his personal account. That way he doesn't even have to go to the bank to deposit checks. He doesn't have to go to the bank or get online to transfer money to do that. If you set it up that way, everything is really all done for you. Your money's put in there by the insurance company, and then the bank transfer the money to your personal account at certain times of the month, when, whichever way you set that up.
And what percent of the dental insurance companies offer direct deposit?
I would, percentage-wise, I would say, because there's a lot of smaller insurance companies out there that don't offer it, I would say like 95%. Okay, so you're talking about all of your bigger insurance companies like Cigna, Aetna, MetLife, Delta Dentals, all of your Delta Dentals, especially the Delta Dentals, Guardian, Principal. I mean, these are all of your major insurance companies that you receive payments from. Like in the state here of South Carolina, we have Blue Cross Blue Shield of South Carolina, and we have Companion. So Blue Cross of South Carolina is a very large insurance company, which is mostly in most offices in this state. That's probably a big portion of their payments. So to receive payment electronically is pretty nice, because you're looking at that money, average payment electronically from insurance companies, you're looking between 5 to 7 days getting that money in your bank account. That's a big difference from what you were referring to when we first started our conversation. You mentioned something about how many weeks in the past we would have to wait for that check to come in the mail. I mean, that's a long time frame, really, and that's how it's evolved to this point, really. And stop and think about that: 5 to 7 days to receive your payment versus 3 to 4 weeks waiting for something to come in the mail. That's pretty efficient, and that plays the factor. That's why I keep mentioning cash flow. So stop and think about that. If you're getting payment in 5 to 7 days versus weeks, your cash flow is going to turn over that, sooner.
Half of my friends, if I ask them, who do you use for your insurance, your electronic claims, your clearinghouse? They have no idea. Do they need to know who their clearinghouse is? Should they have thoughts on their clearinghouse? What are your thoughts on the actual exact clearinghouse?
Well, I'm glad you asked me that question, because one thing that I've learned in this adventure of my business that I have is how important your clearinghouse is to you. Because stop and think about it. You're sending your claims electronically, and where do they go? When you send them, they go to your clearinghouse. So every practice should know who their clearinghouse is. But there's a lot of them that really don't know who their clearinghouse is. The importance of knowing their clearinghouse today I would say of all the benefits that clearinghouses, they actually are starting to get away from being called clearinghouses to being called claims management companies. So you can actually these days pick up your phone to a lot of these clearinghouses out there and call them. A lot of them have programs now, and what I mean by a program, it's actually a program that integrates with your software program. They have an icon on your desktop of your computer, and you work within that program all day long. And it's a wealth of information. You can find out eligibility through there. You can receive your electronic remittance advice, which is the same thing as an electronic EOB. So if you get that ERA in that program, you know right there, because it's going to show you that you've received an electronic payment from that insurance company. And within that program, you can also attach x-rays to your claims before sending them out, which is a nice service right there. When you have your electronic claims and you are attaching your x-rays right from get-go, and you are also writing your narratives in there before you even submit them by the end of the day, it just is more efficient that way, because the insurance company is getting everything they need right there the first time you send your claim out. They've got the x-ray and they've got the narrative.
Can you be specific on the clearinghouse claims management companies? Which ones you like? Which ones you would avoid? I mean, are there ones that are the gold standard? Are there ones that cause you a lot of headaches?
Well, I know that there are some smaller ones out there, and I don't know every single clearinghouse that's out there. There are a couple that I know of that I've run across. There's One Mind Health. I don't really know too much about that company, but this company that I'm going to mention to you, it's called Extradent.
Extradent.
Yeah, Extradent, Extradent. And that company there, I've had quite a bit of experience with. Their program is basically what I was just explaining to you about all the different features that were involved in the clearinghouses. That company right there is the one that offers all of these. And I have worked with that clearinghouse for about 2.5 years now. And I find their program to be very efficient. And you can pick up your phone and literally call Extradent for support. Now, in the past, you wouldn't be able to have done that, to call your clearinghouse, because first of all, you wouldn't even have known what the phone number was to your clearinghouse. There's many different clearinghouses out there. MDON is another one.
MDON?
MDON. EMDEON, I believe is how it's spelled. What software program do you use, Howard, at your
I don't want to say, because then they'll all figure out I'm 53. I use SoftEnd. I mean, that was the big dog back in 1987.
We've been in dentistry a long time, you and I, and I have worked with that program before. I'm originally from New York, so in New York, that was the software program up there that a lot of doctors use. So yes, I have a lot of experience with SoftEnd also. But again, like I said...
But doesn't SoftEnd have its own electronic claims?
Well, yeah, I mean, you can send your claims electronically through SoftEnd, but you're not going to receive electronic payment through SoftEnd. See, that's where a lot of doctors get confused. You can send your claims electronically from your software program, but the trick is when you want to register for electronic payment, You want to be working. That's why I started this, because the more research that I did, because I was implementing it into where I worked already, I found out that there were a lot of offices out there that really didn't even know that much about electronic payment at that point.
So let's go through this. So SoftDent, Dentrix, EagleSoft, the software is set up to send electronic claims.
Correct.
But these individual dentists have to find their own clearinghouse claims management company, or is SoftDent, Dentrix, and EagleSoft kind of pointing you one way?
Okay, I see where you're going with that. Basically, what you're doing, when you want to receive electronic payment, you can send your claims electronically from your software program. To receive payment electronically, you have to actually register with each individual insurance company to receive electronic payment. And see, this is why I started this business, is because it really is quite complicated. And the reason why I say that is because every single insurance company has their own forms, specific forms. They're not all the same. It's not a general form for every insurance company. So you're filling out forms and you're putting the practice information on there. You're putting all of the bank information on there. And then they're also, at that point on that form, they're going to ask you who your clearinghouse is, so that they know. So that having to set it up individually with each insurance company is where your payments come in. Now the trick is, once you've set it up electronically, is to have a system where you know how to receive the electronic EOBs, so you know who's paid you from the money that goes in the bank. And that's where these clearinghouses, the claims management services, come into play these days, because they will notify you within that program that you've been paid electronically.
So if someone's listening to you right now, they can just send you an email, dentalwebsmart@gmail.com, and they'll tell you what they're using, and then you can tell them what your thoughts are on that.
Correct.
And the red flag for the take home assignment for the listener today is the big red flag would be if you have outstanding insurance report over 90.
Oh yeah. Yes.
So if you have any and over 60 should be half a month's production or less. So if over 60 you still have money outstanding, half a month's production or more, or anything over 90, then there's probably some inefficiency in their clearinghouse electronic claims process management.
Correct. Yes. Anything over 60, if you've got, especially if it's large numbers. Now, I just had a doctor contact me recently from North Carolina, and he had more money outstanding in the 90-day range that he did in the current day range. So that.
And what's the current day range? 0 to 30, you mean?
Correct. That would be current. 0 to 30.
And if they're not receiving electronic payments with this direct deposit, then how would they be receiving it from their electronic claims? A check in the mail, right?
Correct.
And you think it's more efficient to go from receiving a check in the mail to having a direct deposit?
Absolutely.
Okay. But
I've been doing it for 6 years.
What's that?
I said I've been doing it for 6 years.
What percent of dentists would you guess are you in North Carolina or South Carolina?
South Carolina.
And who's the better, smarter people, South Carolinians or North Carolinians?
Ooh.
Or are you a golfer? If you're a golfer, you'd say Myrtle Beach. You'd say South Carolina. So I can tell you're not a golfer.
I'm not a golfer. I probably would say South Carolina, yes, because, I find that a lot of the doctors in South Carolina are more open to it. I find a lot of doctors very leery about the electronic stuff because they don't know enough about it.
Okay, but what percent, because you know Carolina is the most, you know North and South Carolina the most, what percent of dentists using electronic claims management are also just getting a check sent back in the mail, snail mail, versus signed up for electronic deposit? What percent do you think are getting electronic deposit?
Oh dear. I would say maybe 45%.
45%.
Yeah.
So right now you're talking to dentists that say, okay, I'm on Dentrix, EagleSoft, Open Dental, SoftDent. I do all the electronic claims. I attach my digital X-rays, but they send me a check in the mail. Talk to that person about why do you think it's better that they get off the check coming back in the mail and go set up to have an electronic deposit? What's the advantage?
I would say that the biggest advantage is having the money in your bank in 5 to 7 days versus 3 to 4 weeks waiting for that. Because sometimes when those checks come back in the mail or the claim, if you get a claim, it could be a rejection letter. So stop and think about that. You've waited 3 weeks for that rejection letter to come back. You have to address that again and send it back. I would say the most important thing is getting your payment between the 5 to 7 days versus in the mail. I mean, there's many benefits to it. I mean, if they give their staff the tools and the training to do it where they receive electronic payment, then they can implement that system as far as receiving electronic payment. And it just would make their cash flow much better monthly.
Okay, and how much would it cost for them to have you fly to their office and set that up?
Well, the expense of the flight, and it really depends on the size of the practice. That's how I go by that. And why I'm going to say this too is some offices might already be set up with 1 or 2 electronic insurance payments. If that's the case, then I give them a break on the fee that I charge. But if it's a larger practice, I would say anywhere between $2,000 to $4,000. And it really depends on the size of the practice. And that is getting it all set up and training their staff how to implement that electronic system of the payment.
And so basically they're going to do all this stuff, and they're just going to get a faster turnaround time on their money.
Yes, sir. Yeah. And because of these claim management services that they have, it's not only that, they also implement another really important part of that is the eligibility information. A lot of offices are getting more into finding out ahead of time what a patient's insurance eligibility is, which is a big benefit also. And that can all be done electronically through the websites also, or even through those claims management services. They offer that stuff. Now stop and think about it. If you have say you're working within that claims management service, you can look a week ahead and it pulls from your software program your patients that are scheduled for the following week. You can look up their eligibility and find out what it is a week before they come into your practice. Now, that's a benefit in itself because it's going to tell you if they don't even, it'll tell you that they don't even have coverage with that insurance company any longer because, see, they're pulling the information from your software program. So whatever's insurance is in that software program under that patient, that's what's going to come up. And it'll tell you if they don't have insurance any longer with that. So think about that. A week ahead of time, and you already know that they don't have insurance with that company, so you call your patient up and tell them that and say, they need to find out what their insurance is before their appointment. And it's only a benefit because what happens when they get into the hygiene chair and you're advising treatment to them, you've already got their eligibility information in the computer, so you know right there basically the breakdown of what their insurance is going to pay, and they're going to be more likely to schedule treatment with you before they leave the office, because your office staff is going to be more knowledgeable in explaining to them what their eligibility is, and their coverage and what their percentage would be.
What do you say to dentists who are they're afraid that they say, well, how do you do electronic claims through Dentrix, EagleSoft, Open Dental? But if I do direct deposits, isn't there going to be a delay in my EOB, my explanation of benefits?
No, there will be no delay. Because basically they send you an electronic, it's called ERA. If you've ever seen the three little words, it's called electronic remittance advice. Same thing as an EOB, only it's an electronic EOB, basically. And that's going to be sent
So an EOB, explanation of benefits, will be called a what?
Electronic remittance advice. Same thing as an EOB, only it's an electronic version. And these claim management services have that option of having that information within these programs. Or if the office doesn't want to use that program, they can get that within the websites, insurance company websites. I very rarely myself call insurance companies. To me, that's a waste of time, because you're on the phone for so long. You can so easily go to the insurance company websites and get a wealth of information. You just have to learn how to get around in the websites for the information that you're looking for. You can get all kinds of information.
So again, the EOB, explanation of benefits, would be called an electronic remittance
advice.
Right. So do they call that ERA?
ERA. Mm-hmm.
Oh, what else is ERA? Don't we have an ERA attachment? Okay, and so when they do the direct deposit, they should electronically send at the exact same time an ERA, electronic remittance advice?
You can also set it up, like if you have an office email, you can also set it up where that insurance company is going to email you that they've made a payment to notify you of an electronic payment.
Can the ERA also be set directly into SoftDent, EagleSoft, Dentrix, all those?
Not within the software program. Like I said, it would be through these claim management companies. It could go through there, or it would be on the websites. But see,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I work with the clearinghouse, and I find that very efficient to do it that way, because they're sending you have everything within that program. Your claims are in there, you attach your x-rays in there, you get your insurance response, which is your ERA in there, you get your eligibility in there. I think any office today, really, that wants to be more efficient with their insurance stuff really needs to find out more about their clearinghouses and what they have to offer. I mean, there's so much more to them these days, really, than before. You didn't even know what the phone number was. So
I want to go off topic a little bit. In setting up electronic claims and setting up electronic deposit, does this have any variable to do with embezzlement? I know a lot of dental offices, we're always seeing in the newspapers, there was one in the office the other day.
I know.
Does this have anything to do with making it less likely that I'm being embezzled from?
And that's one thing that I find with doctors that they're probably most concerned with. But if I find from experience it's a more secure way of handling your payment, because stop and think about it. That payment is actually going to your bank deposit. And if you put it in a deposit-only account and you do not give any front office staff any privileges within that account whatsoever, then that's going to reduce your risk right there because they don't even have access to your money. The doctor is the one that monitors that account. And it's really very easy. Like I said, if you do the deposit only, the only thing in that account is going to be your electronic payments. So it should be very easy for him to print that off and give a copy to his front desk person and say, this is what's gone into the bank.
But sometimes you can't win for losing. The last dentist I talked to that just got cleaned out in embezzling. Guess who was embezzling from him?
Who?
His wife, who had been planning to divorce him, and she'd been embezzling and sending the money to Australia, and she thought it all out. She didn't file for divorce until he figured it out. So she's been doing this for 5 years.
And when she was doing it electronically?
Oh, I don't know all the details.
I was like, wow, that's a new one.
Yeah. So you can get embezzled from anybody.
Oh, I know that. I mean, it's like that with anything.
In fact, as we're talking, my son Ryan just walked away with my wallet. Ryan, what are you doing? I wonder. He reached in my drawer, took my wallet, and he's running. He just ran out the front door.
He went to get you some lunch. That's what he did.
So are there any other mistakes you could be explaining to my homies? Like, is there any mistakes that you see with payment codes in the software programs, or is that an issue?
No, because basically what happens when you send a claim electronically, these clearinghouses are so efficient these days. If you send that claim electronically and there's information that's missing or incorrect, it actually gets returned to you to correct it. And it's so specific now that it actually tells you exactly what it is, why they sent it back to you. It could be something as simple as missing birth date or incorrect ID number or incorrect address or something to that effect. So, as far as electronic, it's much more efficient because you didn't have that option before. When you think about it, you had to wait to send it, and then it would come back, and then you would find out that the reason why, and they wouldn't even really be that specific why they rejected the claim. So it really is so much more efficient that way because you pretty much find out when you send your claims at the end of the day, by the next day, you're going to know if there's any mistakes in any of those claims that you've sent. And you can correct them.
Chris, now I want you to take off your dental consultant hat and put on your mom hat. You and I have the same dilemma in the fact that, I've had Dental Town magazine since 1994. I mean, I've had the website since 98. And the bottom line is, if Henry Ford would have asked all the people, hey, do you want to get rid of your horse and buy a horseless carriage? The whole market would have said, hell no, I love my horse. I get up every day, I bathe him, I wash him. When they start selling a horseless carriage, it didn't work. And they had to realize they're not going to get rid of their horse. They're going to get a car. And they just had to sell the advantages of a car of a horse and go faster and go longer, blah, blah. If I ask dentists, what do they want to podcast about? What do they want to hear about? It only comes back clinical. There's not a single person out there who wants to learn anything about everything you're talking about. They want to learn about root canals, fillings, crowns. Most of my podcast people are under 30. They probably only had their practice for 5 years. Put on your mom hat. How can you tell these young dentists that are now half women that they just can't learn about root canals, fillings, and crowns? They have to get involved in the front desk. Every single office I go into, the front desk people tell me, our dentist has zero idea about anything. He couldn't fill out a form. He couldn't submit a claim. They joke that they could be up there running a medical marijuana dispensary and the dentist wouldn't even know it. How do you and I, we're in our 50s, we're adults, we got children old enough to be dentists. How can we try to convince these young podcast listeners that a dentist is a business person and getting paid in 5 to 7 days versus 90 days can be the difference between a bankruptcy. And I want to tell my homies, I'm in Phoenix, Arizona, and this is only April. We're podcasting on February 9th, and Phoenix, Arizona Valley of the Sun has already had 10 dental office bankruptcy closures, and we're only 6 weeks into this year. And how do we get people to I know when I'm doing this podcast interview on electronic claims, I know they're all looking at it like, what? And, who cares? And then they're gonna, they want to hear about a root canal. Talk to them.
They should care, because that's the core of their practice. Any young dentist that's just coming out of college, I'll be honest with you, he needs to put systems in place right from get-go. I mean, he really needs to learn the core of his front desk and how that works. And as far as setting it up electronically, stop and think about that. When he first starts his practice, if he gets this set up right from and puts those systems in place right from get-go, that's going to sustain him for the duration of running his practice. Because once he gets set up electronically, I mean, it just continues that way. I haven't run across any problems as far as glitches in your payments and stuff. Now, and that's the most important thing. It really comes down to the fact that knowledge is everything. And if it's going to affect his cash flow, then that's the most important thing that he needs to learn. As far as his front desk and all it takes to organize it and put systems in place so that cash flow is efficient the way it should be.
Do you work with how many different practice management systems softwares do you work with? And do you think Dentrix, EagleSoft, do you think they're pretty much basically all the same new car? Or are there some that you think work a heck of a lot easier and better and intuitive than others?
There's some that work a little bit. Most of them are pretty much the same. Some of them work a little easier than others. Some of them are kind of complicated.
Which ones are kind of easier and which ones are kind of more complicated?
I'll be honest with you. What I do, setting up electronically, it doesn't matter what the software program is, because, see, that doesn't affect what I do. Now, as far as the ones that my experience that I've come across, I find EagleSoft, SoftDent, those are easier to work with. Dentrix, I find most offices, they either love it or they dislike it. I wasn't going to use the other word. It really just depends. I find that Dentrix probably can be a little cumbersome for some people because there's so much there to learn.
Right. I've always told all of them. I have personally gone on flights on my own dime. I went to Effingham, talked to EagleSoft. I've gone to Shine. I've gone up to Provo, the Dentrix. I've talked to them all. And the bottom line is, if they'll tell you that 80% of their software is never used. And I tell them what they're doing is they're trying to put that thing up there. If any receptionist ever says, I wish you'd do this, they just do that at the expense of making it overcomplicated for everyone else. I've begged them, if 80% of it's not being used, if you stripped all of that out, and right. I mean, can you imagine checking in at the Hilton or checking in at the Hyatt, and the person there checking your car could literally do 480 different things when they need to just ask, what is your mileage? What is the gas tank? I mean, and make it so these are the 6 things to check me in. These are the 6 things to check me out, and get rid of everything else. Someone needs to just come down, and you know who's going to do it? I think who's going to do it is somebody who's not even in the biz is going to start probably a dental practice management from scratch on a phone app, and then they would be forced to streamline it down. Keep it simple, stupid. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But I think as far as young dentists first starting, if they start off with efficient systems at their front desk, I mean, that's the most important thing I could leave with them is just start out with good front desk systems. Make sure that you take the time to train the staff. I mean, because sometimes the training part of it for the staff is important too. And sometimes the doctors don't take the time. Give them the tools so they know how to use that. That's going to help everything in the long run, is when they have staff that has the tools and the training that's needed to achieve their job at the front desk.
Well, Chris, I think you covered it all. You can email Chris at dentalwebsmart@gmail.com. She gave you, I can't believe she gave you, not many people are going to give you their cell phone number, 864-414-1126. That's 864-414-1126. Or just go to dentalwebsmart.com. Chris, you're so smart. I don't know of anybody in your space who just does this. You're highly specified. You're only in dentistry. You're only in, these dental electronic claims, direct deposits. You're what I call, who I always try to get on my podcast, are what I call dental unicorns. You know what I mean? Just
Okay.
rare birds flying around that just master one little thing. And I know I'm not silly. I know if you're a podcast listener, you're thinking, I want to hear about bone grafting. I know it. I get it. You're a chef. You want to make lasagna. I know you want another recipe, but you got to keep your eye on the business. And in my 30 years experience, everybody who works on the business first and gets rich, then they can afford to, like me, gone to, the Painting Institute and buy lasers and CBCTs and go to Mish and get diplomat.
Right.
That's all the fun stuff after you got your house in order. Your house has got to be in order. You got to be poised for growth, and you need to get rich first and then play. Not get behind the financial 8-ball and then be stressed out of your wig, start drinking Listerine, and be one of the 10 dental offices in Phoenix that's already gone under for 2016. So, Chris, thank you so much for spending an hour with me today.
The opportunity. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
And you know what? Will you do me a favor? I just sent you an email, and I CC'd my office manager, Robert. And I want you to talk to Robert and see if you think we're doing it right.
Okay.
Okay.
So can I ask you one quick question then?
Heck yeah.
Do you receive any electronic payment at this point?
We send electronic claims, but we get the paper check in the mail.
Okay.
We do not have that. We do not use a direct deposit.
Well, I can just help Robert. I can tell him a lot of stuff, advise him on a lot of stuff then.
Well,
Yeah.
I hope you do, because the deal with humans is you can't tell them how to drive from Phoenix to L.A. and give them the directions until first you sell them on why they need to go to L.A. So I hope you call Robert and tell him why he wants to do it. And if you get Robert to sit there and say, okay, now I want to go to L.A., then you can help him get there.
Okay. All right.
Hey, it was an honor meeting you. I hope to meet you in person sometime. And you know what I'm also thinking? I know it would be the most least watched online CE course we ever put up, but it'd be the most necessary. You should email Hogo. I'm Howard at dentaltown.com. He's Howard Goldstein, so he goes by Hogo, Hogo at dentaltown.com. But I think you should make an online CE course on Dentaltown about how to do all this stuff. And just, present it. Because the difference between a podcast and an online CE course is kind of like the difference between reading a book and seeing the movie. You just have people that want to read the book. I mean, I look at all the people who, our online CE courses have been viewed 500,000 times. I look at the people looking at those lists, and I cross-reference people sending me emails, and it seems to be two different markets. I think the podcasting market is basically a multitasking market. These are docs who are just driving to work, and the choice was listening to us or some local radio station talk about the traffic. The online CE course is more of an evening thing. They like to get HD credit. They like, they're just a different deal. And my new book, you mentioned people, time, and money. You're the marriage of time and money. It's like we're going to not only watch your money, but we're going to watch it getting in 5 to 7 days
That's
instead
right.
of 30, 60, 90 days.
Yeah. You know, one thing I want to mention real quick before we finish up too, and thank you for that tip. I'll be glad to reach out to him on that. I was just checking out for the Hinman Dental Convention in Atlanta, checking out, and if you actually go on there and look at the courses that doctors can take, or even their staff, you will be shocked. I'm shocked, and I look at it every single year because I only live an hour and a half from Atlanta. You will not find any courses that pertain to dental insurance. Now,
That's
how
right.
sad is that?
And you'll find 10 courses on occlusion, and your teeth don't even touch when you eat. They should call them bolus chewing courses. And then you'll ask that doctor in his 15th occlusion course, what is your account receivables? What is your aging report? Ask him any question. What is your return on asset for 2015? What was your return on equity? What is your mark? Ask him anything that matters. They won't know. And then they'll tell you the wear rates of all their composites when none of their composites wear down. They'll tell you the bond strength of all their fillings, and other fillings fall out. And
Yeah.
it's always a challenge as you get older and older and older to try to get the kids to focus in the right direction. And I hope that's what we're doing in this podcast, because that's why I do it every day for free. And thank you for doing this for me for free, too.
Well, thank you for the opportunity, Howard. I really appreciate
And
it.
another reason you should make an online CE course? See, I do a podcast because I have a face for radio. You have a face for television. So that's why you should do an online CE so they can all see you.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Have a great day. Bye-bye, Chris.